I would like to now welcome my next guest to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. It's Bob Whitcomb.
Hello, Kate. How are you?
You brought notes with you, sir.
I did. Well, not really.
Oh, you have a little something. I mean, I've got my notes too. I'd like to go through your weekly columns.
It's a translation into Gaelic of what that gentleman just said.
So you were hanging out in the green room with the Cork Airport folks. Yeah. So you wrote about
very exciting.
You wrote about that in your column this week.
I've been pushing about, I think, the last column. I've been pushing this thing for 30 years, pushing people to extend the runway, which the FAA and everybody else has been pushing the state to do. We've got density of population around here. It's in the Northeast corridor. That should have been a major international airline, by the 80s. It's just been blocked up by a few people wanting some more money for their houses, who complain that they're right next to an airport, and the houses were built after the airport was built in 1928. So you're apt to hear planes when you're living near an airport. So.
Do you have plans to partake in Norwegian Air and head over across the
pond?
pond?
Of course, all the tickets, the promotional tickets were all taken, but yeah, I'm absolutely going to do it. I'd like to go to Paris because we used to live there.
Oh,
used to
did
work
you?
in Paris,
That's
so
right. Yes.
I'm hoping they'll do that.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah.
Well, I was just talking with Neil McCarthy. You know, when you get over there, Ryanair, as he calls it,
I noticed his tie with green. I wonder why. Not orange.
And
not
you saw
orange.
the green drinks back there that we
I
keep
did
talking.
Indeed. They look very dangerous.
That will be after the show today. That we'll partake in some green drinks. But I wanted to, as always, talk a little bit about the last column that you wrote, and then maybe some fodder for because they're always again. There's just little nuggets of things that you have insights, and having been in the media world.
That's the idea. Just kind of something from all over the place, but
a
hopefully
little
get
something.
people thinking.
And one of the ones was the first thing you wrote about was the U.S. News and World Report, state rankings, and Massachusetts and New Hampshire.
Yeah, very high, rather different states, even though they're kind of also tied at the hip because southern New Hampshire gets a lot of money from Greater Boston. But the main point is they're both quite well run. New Hampshire is probably more honest because it's suburban and rural, a bit more honest than Massachusetts, but they're both generally very well run. They have good social services, they have good infrastructure, especially around Boston, where I know people make fun of the MBTA all the time, but I'll tell you, having those subways and those commuter trains is a major reason for Boston's prosperity. Mm-hmm. It's huge, to quote somebody you may have heard of. In the case of New Hampshire, you've got a lot of small and medium-sized businesses, many of them family-owned, great work ethic, a local government, very honest, very hardworking. I also have a theory that the northern states tend to be more prosperous because the tropical diseases can't get that far. They're actually healthier. We know this is a fact, that northern places are healthier than southern places. So we're always being told about the glories of the Sun Belt. 50, 60 years I've been spending my time covering business and stuff. It's always how wonderful the Sun Belt is. They remain the poor states with few exceptions. You might include Virginia, but Virginia is really part of the Northeast. So
you have pointed that in the column. Yeah, check it out. Check out Bob's column from last week.
The poorest states are Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana.
And you've written before, and remind me, because I did have former Congressman Patrick Kennedy on yesterday, and today I'm actually having Jared Moffitt with Regulate RI to talk about the pro-legalization marijuana effort.
I'm against legalization for recreational marijuana. I think it's a terrible thing. I think it is a gateway drug.
Well, one of the things I had asked him about, and he kind of skirted around, the problems that we have with UHIP, the problems that we have with regulation. Do you think the state's equipped to be able to?
No, the state is not equipped to do it. There's tremendous capacity for corruption. There's a lot of money washing around. Do I think this will be blocked? No, because the state's already eyeing a lot of money from this.
We'll see. I mean, it's been introduced the last few years. As I said, we're going to have Jared in here to give us
major lobbying group. Now, medicinal marijuana is a little different, even though I think that's mostly going to be abused.
Well, we'll see what happens. You know, the legislation's been introduced here the last few years. I mean, the effort again is ongoing this year. As I said, we're going to have Jared in a little bit to talk a little bit more.
Very complicated issue, but I think it will make things worse, not better. Again, I'm talking about recreational marijuana, small sales. I have my doubts about medicinal marijuana too, but we shall see.
Well, speaking of making things worse, not better, we did talk in the green room today about the Rhode Island State Police's response this week to 38 studios after the documents were released. Colonel Sempigo had a very quickly arranged press conference at the State House.
She seemed genuinely angry.
She was genuinely
humiliated,
angry.
maybe. It wasn't her doing. It was a joke. That was not an investigation. So I'll get back to what I sort of intuited before, which is you need somebody from outside the state. I would suggest, say, a former, retired U.S. district judge, someone like that, to look at this thing. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. I thought you guys could go local. Maybe it was somehow exaggerated. We didn't talk to most of the crucial people, the key people. Michael Corso especially comes to mind. He was this sort of fixer lawyer in the middle of this thing. It was extraordinarily superficial. It was hard to believe that an agency that used to be considered the one unimpeachable law enforcement agency in Rhode Island for 60 years, going way back even to before the mob time, the mafia time, would conduct such an, what's the right word, superficial look at something. What about depositions? What about?
Well, you heard her say that
I just couldn't believe it.
That some recordings were taken, and then investigators were told they did not have to keep recordings and only had to provide summaries.
Yeah, summaries. So it has to raise the question: why was it done this way? That's the troubling thing. It's not so much what they discovered from this, which is not much, but what was the fix-in.
So the question, you talk about having, again, that outside look, and folks keep saying
I hate to spend money on it, but yeah.
Now, does the investigation itself need to be reopened and replicated, or does there in fact have to sort of be an ombudsman look at how the investigation was conducted?
Yeah, I think when the governor complains, this can go on and on and on. She's right, and she's got some credibility in this because she opposed this deal. But I think you have to have somebody from the outside come in. I know investigation of an investigation, but this thing, the state police investigation was so thin, so superficial, so inept, that I'm afraid we need somebody to come in from the outside and find out why.
Are you going to be writing about it for this weekend?
Yes, I will say a few words.
What else you got on your list of things to write about this weekend?
Well, we'll talk about the paradoxes of the Republican health care plan, which is they're basically trying to keep the popular parts of the Affordable Care Act. By the way, the Affordable Care Act is very popular in the polls. Obamacare has been very unpopular. You know about that?
It's how you put the label on
it. That's right. So what do you think of Obamacare? Oh, it's terrible. What do you think of Affordable Care? So do
you think this is really Trump care, as you said, if they're just keeping the more, we've looked at and we've seen and parsed it a little bit, as you said, keeping the more popular parts of it, obviously not placating the conservative side of the Republican Party by any stretch.
They don't like it at all.
They don't like it at all.
I think the problem is none of it adds up in terms of they keep undermining the way of financing. The only way you can finance over time social insurance, which is what this is, you've got younger, healthier people subsidizing older, sicker people, and most of us are going to be older and sicker, so we're willing to pay for it.
We talked a little bit about this last week.
It's crazy. It doesn't add up what they're trying to do. They also changed they engage in rhetorical sleight of hand. They said, okay, mandate. Everybody hated the mandate. Well, you know what it is now? It's an insurance surcharge if you drop your insurance. So the money...
Obamacare versus Affordable Care Act.
Senator Rand Paul, who's a Republican, said, so sarcastically but accurately, wait a minute, you're basically giving the money to the insurance companies instead of the government. In which you would be penalized through a surcharge. They didn't want to call it a mandate.
Couldn't call it a mandate. It's all semantics, if you will.
Semantics.
Did you expect this, having heard what the president, what Trump had said during the campaign?
Oh, yeah.
This is exactly what you expected. Discussions, it was much more complex. And
I was astonished by that. We all got a lot of chuckle out of that. Healthcare is perhaps the most complicated thing you need to address in the public policy world. That he said that it was a surprise to people that healthcare was so complicated. I got a pretty good chuckle out of that.
I know how. I can only imagine how complicated
it's incredibly the financing of it, the whole thing is very, very. And in this country where these hybrid systems, we've got the private insurance companies have huge clout in Washington. Now we got the state laws, the federal. It's a mess. That's one reason. There are other reasons too. In the composition of our big, messy country, that we have terrible outcomes for a developed nation. We have the most expensive health care by far of any nation in the world on a per capita basis, at the same time among the worst outcomes.
Okay, so you're going to talk about 38 studios, look at health care. Any other nuances that
Yeah,
you're
there's something fascinating.
percolating?
You can see it. The other day, a friend of mine told me about something called Smart Flower, which is a portable solar energy device. You can put in your backyard. It opens in the morning.
Smart flower.
Flower. Smart, you probably heard of it. Smart Flower.
I have not heard of Smart Flower.
Smart Flower, not smartphone. Smart Flower. And it opens during the day and then closes at night. It's very efficient. It's supposed to be 40% more efficient than these things you put on your roof. You can take them with you if you move. I think the cost of buying one of these things and installing is about 25 grand. They're tax credits though, so you probably get $7,000 or $8,000 off that. And this really caught my eye because this is part of a movement toward distributed energy, distributed power. We're no longer totally dependent upon these big power plants, which are so difficult to site, so politically fraught. So this, there are problems in taking this stuff off the grid too. But this is
that's interesting.
I think a hopeful sign.
Okay, well I will keep an eye out for that in the column. It's always again, never know what you're going to get when you write your columns, and it's always an interesting read. So look forward to reading it this weekend.
Great.
And I appreciate having you in as always,
Thank you.
Bob Whitcomb. We'll let him exit the studio here. Exit stage left.
You bet.
There's